Hey guys, Ron here. Today I'm out in a residential neighborhood, traveling 50 miles to do this for you. Hope it's appreciated. No, I'm just kidding. Come on, what are you barking at? I got the dog and immediately he's barking at something. But I'm going to show you the home of Karen Carpenter, the Carpenter family. Richard and Karen bought this home for their parents. You'll see how nice it is in a moment. And unfortunately, Karen Carpenter died here on, I believe, February the 4th, 1983. And of course, I'm going to talk about Karen Carpenter. Beautiful tree-lined street out in Downey. They had moved from Downey to Downey, from Connecticut. The family did in 1963. So they I think that the parents just stayed here, while Richard and Karen moved to other parts of Los Angeles. And the parents were living here when Karen died in 1983. She had come back here. I'll show you the house in a minute. Surprisingly, only one car parked out front. Coming up on it right here. Yeah. There it is. Let's get across the street. Look at these lion statues. So this is the home. Richard was called, I think, just right after the ambulance was called for Karen. They've really done it up. They have really done it up, huh? Okay, actually, let's go in front. Karen had been through a bad divorce, and she was here at her parents' home, and the day she died, she had been up. Her mother had heard her up getting coffee in the kitchen or getting something in the kitchen, and Karen went back upstairs, and her mother heard a fall or a noise, and what happened was Karen actually collapsed in her walk-in closet. And there was a faint pulse when the paramedics got to her, but by the time, or shortly after she got to the hospital, she was deceased. Car speeding up into the cul-de-sac. That always happens when I'm out. We're going to come back to the house before the end of the video, by the way. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Karen and Richard Carpenter. You can't talk about Karen without talking about Richard. Come on, you. Karen and Richard Carpenter, like I said, they were born in Connecticut. Richard showed an aptitude for music at a very early age. In fact, he was like a child prodigy on piano. Now, there's a lot of debate saying that Richard was clearly the favorite in the family, and you know that the mother really idolized Richard, and I believe it, but then again, so did Karen. I mean, I met Richard Carpenter once, and not only is he supremely talented as an arranger, producer, musician, and piano player, but he had an incredible knack to be able to, he has great presence, I should say. So, let's talk a little bit more about what happened. Like I said, they were born in Connecticut, but the family actually wanted to move here to further Richard's musical skills. So Richard, I believe, went to Cal State Long Beach and studied music, of course. Karen wanted to get out of, Karen went to Downey High School, and in order to get out of band, or now we got a band, in order to get out of PE, she joined band, started playing drums, and she had a real aptitude for drumming. So at some point, Richard and Karen and a bass player formed a trio called the Richard Carpenter, or sometimes the Dick Carpenter Trio, more like a jazz without singing, more like a jazz trio. And Karen was playing drums and Richard was playing piano. Eventually, bass players disbanded, and Karen and Richard went off on their own, forming the group the Carpenters, and with Karen singing and Richard, arranging songs, all the songs. Richard arranging the songs. They did a single cover of, they got a record deal in 1969. They did a cover of the Beatles' Ticket to Ride. It got to about number 50 something on the charts. But I think the album, their first album, only sold a couple 100,000 copies. The second album, Richard had an introduction with Burt Bacharach, and they were at Bacharach, I believe, asked if he could rearrange a song called "Close to You," and Richard did it, and the rest was history. "Close to You" became a massive hit on the second album. Also, then Richard had heard a song called "We've Only Just Begun," which is a Paul Williams song. In fact, Paul Williams was singing it on a Crocker Bank commercial, and Richard called Paul Williams and said, "Do you have the words for the song?" And Paul Williams said, "Yes." All the words? Yeah, it's written. Richard decided to cover it and had Karen sing it, and absolutely beautiful, gorgeous song. If you don't know it, listen to it. And the Carpenters achieved a great amount, let's go back this way, a great amount of fame. Throughout the 70s, they sold, I think, over 60 million records in their 14-year career. There was criticism that they were soft, that they were, not rockers, that they were not too cool. It was, you could call it easy listening, you could call it any number of things. But I'll tell you something, you couldn't match Karen's voice. And Richard, like I said, did all the arranging of all the songs, producing, arranging. Now, just want to make sure I know where I am. Now, eventually, Karen started out in the group behind the drums, playing drums, which was what she did. The record companies and Richard kept pushing for Karen to come out front and sing at a microphone, stand there and be the singer. And eventually she did, and I think that's what led to Karen's issues. Now, Karen had always exhibited kind of issues about her weight and her appearance, even before she was 19 when she signed with the Carpenters. Parents had to co-sign the record deal. But even before that, she had exhibited signs of, insecurity about her weight and eating. And all I can say is through all the huge hits of the Carpenters and through all the music and through the records and through the 70s, in fact, when I was in first or second grade here in Los Angeles, I was in choir. I don't remember what it was called, choir or chorus, and one of the songs that they had us learn was "On Top of the World," the Carpenters version. "I'm on the top of the world." That and 16 Miles on the Erie Canal. You can see how tame things were just a few decades ago, how things have changed. Now, okay. But anyway, back to the Carpenters. So, with all this fame and success, Karen always had problems with, with relationships and eating disorders. She dated some Hollywood actors, Mark Harmon, Tony Danza, Steve Martin, the wild and crazy guy. Seems like quite a pair, huh? Eventually, she married, but the marriage did not take. She married a real estate developer, and there's, I don't want to besmirch anybody, I don't know the facts, but there are allegations he was taking her money and controlling and abusive, not physically abusive, but not a great relationship. So that ended in divorce before she died, obviously before she died. And before that, I'm going back and forth in time here, but despite the Carpenters' squeaky clean image, there was a period, I believe in 1979, when Richard had a sleep disorder and couldn't sleep, and apparently Agnes's mother had Quaaludes, which were legal in the 70s, and she said, "Here, take one of these." This is according to what Richard says. And he became hooked. He said he'd take one, but then he'd wake up 2 hours later, so he'd take another one, take another one, take another one. And then in late 78, he was shaking on stage. He actually had to cancel, I believe, not just a performance, but I believe the rest of a tour because of his condition. Karen actually brought him into rehab. So touring and recording was done for a while as Richard recovered in rehab. And it just became kind of a part of their legacy. But at the same time, of course, Karen was dealing what we now know is a very serious case of anorexia nervosa. Let's go back this way. And Karen was finally admitted to hospital, and I believe it was the end of 1982. She was about 80 pounds by then. At that time, the doctor, actually they did cause her to gain weight, but Richard now contends to this day that the weight gain was too much and it was too fast. She got up to a normal weight this time, or somewhat almost normal, about 110 pounds on a 5'4" frame. So people were hopeful about her. Unfortunately, in the research I've done, what people didn't know was that Karen, even after she came out of the hospital, even this was after her divorce, and even coming back and being with her parents here and talking with Richard about future plans, Karen was using a tremendous amount of Ipecac. Ipecac, I may be mispronouncing it, Ipecac, which was, she was hoping to vomit, and it was poisoning her. They didn't really know till the autopsy. Apparently she was also using Synthroid, which is something that people who have had cancer usually for their adrenaline. I believe my mother was on it. It was for the thyroid, but it was speeding up her metabolism, and I think she thought, and she was taking massive doses of that too, hoping her metabolism would be strengthened to the point where, you know, she was just constantly burning calories even at rest. So the psychological issues were not fixed, even though she may have gained back some weight. So in early February, she was here at her parents' house. Her weight was better, but she was still doing all the self-destructive behavior. Richard had tried to speak to her. Agnes, of course, the mother. Agnes takes a lot of heat because it's said that Agnes was cold and withholding of love, and much more loving to Richard. Richard was her favorite. Hey, I wasn't there. I don't know. I can't speak to that. All I know is that she was home with Agnes and her father that day, and she collapsed upstairs. And Agnes said the night before that she had seen Karen eat more food than in a long time, fish tacos, and was asking for even more food. You know, in their defense, people didn't know about anorexia nervosa as much in 1983 as they do today. And also, from a practical standpoint, you know, Karen was the cash cow with Richard. They were earning millions of dollars for themselves and for the family. They didn't want to, I'm sure they didn't want to piss off Karen too much to the point where she'd say, if you don't leave me alone, I won't talk to you. Kind of what Elvis would do when people try to confront his disorders, his pill taking. All speculation on my part. Anyway, in a minute we'll come back, we'll look at the house again. Unfortunately, Karen did succumb here and then died later in hospital. I'll be right back to you. You know, folks, there are a lot of great interviews online. It's one great thing about the internet, you know, we have archives of all these things we want to watch and listen to. But besides the music, there are interviews with Karen and Richard, there are documentaries. I think that Karen Carpenter, who definitely had perfect pitch, had one of the most beautiful voices, especially in her lower range, of any musician, certainly of any female musician ever. She was a spectacular singing. Her voice was like, it was a gift from somewhere up above. It really was. I'm not saying I know every Carpenter song, I know the hits, but if you appreciate creativity, music in particular, that singing voice, I mean, like Elvis's voice as a man, Karen Carpenter's voice as a woman, unbelievable, really unbelievable. And it was a terrible, terrible loss. They could have gone on, you know, another 20, 30, 40 years. Richard now lives with his family in the West Valley, well, Thousand Oaks, I believe, which is west of the San Fernando Valley. Here we're looking at the home again, and here comes somebody. Isn't that amazing? Here comes somebody. This is the second car to come into the cul-de-sac since we've been here. Let's see where they go. Oh, we're still going. Okay. All right, folks, I'm going to close out on the house here. I'll say thank you very, very much for watching and listening. Again, my name is Ron. If you like the channel, please subscribe. If you do subscribe, please hit the little bell icon next to the subscription button so you'll get notified as to when I post. And please leave comments in the comments section if you see fit. And most importantly, folks, please give the channel likes, because that's how I really generate traction for this channel. Thank you very much, and we'll see you at the next location. Thanks. Bye-bye.